Chiediamo ancora scusa per alcuni problemi tecnici che abbiamo avuti. Ci ricordavamo con Miguel, no? Ogni ostacolo una pedana di slancio.
I want to say sorry for all the technical difficulties that we have had. And now, to be able to understand, let us try to see if all translations are working. English, is it working? English, is it working? Can you hear me? Can you make a reaction? English, it's okay.
L'inglese deve chiudere la poppa chiudere.
Francese? Sì.
Benissimo.
Portoghese? Portoghese funziona? Possiamo dare un confermo?
Sì.
Sì, grazie. Spagnolo?
Sì,
C'è il spagnolo?
funziona.
Perfetto.
Funziona.
Perfetto.
Sloveno?
Le français, ça marche.
C'è sloveno? No. Non c'è.
Oui, ciao, nous vous recevons en français.
Sloveno.
Benissimo.
Ok, facciamo un altro giro per inglese. Potete fare una prova, darci una mano. Se traduttore, traduttrice può fare una prova, riprende.
Mentre che
C'è
facciamo
l'inglese.
queste prove, chiediamo a tutti quanti di spegnere i loro microfoni. Grazie.
Sì. Allora, inglese adesso è a posto? No? Ok. Sì.
English, can you hear me?
Adesso. Ok.
English, okay.
Grazie.
Grazie ai nostri tecnici che stanno facendo meraviglie.
È vero.
Ok.
È vero. Allora, adesso noi andiamo nel parte del COP26 con Lorna Gold e Tillie Palmer.
Allora diamo la parola ai moderatori. Grazie.
Grazie.
Ciao Pavric, devi aprire il tuo microfono. Grazie.
Hello, good afternoon and good morning, and welcome to everyone following us from various parts of the globe. We are Juliette and Fabrice, and we will be your hosts today in this panel on COP26, Insight and Commitment.
Devo solo dire che non sono la Giulietta giusta. C'è un problema.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was muted. Okay, so first we're going to start by introducing our campaign. For those who may not be familiar, the Dare to Care campaign, People, Planet, and Our Ecological Conversion, aims to promote, implement integral ecology through simple daily gestures in order to break the culture of waste. Pathway Dare to Care works through 3 steps. Learn, educate ourselves in order to promote new models of integral ecology, act by involving everyone, and share through our social networks, of course. You can learn more about the Dare to Care campaign project through our Facebook and Instagram pages on the United World Project page. Now we're going to watch a small video in order to introduce more Dare to Care campaign.
Para mí, Dare to Care es ayudar a los que necesitan. Por ejemplo, con un grupo de amigos nos vamos a ayudar a construir casas para los que no tienen hogar.
Para mí, sin duda, es cuidar a las demás personas en un ámbito de paz. Aunque muchas veces sientamos que no tenemos argumentos, que quizás a nuestros alrededores no hay nadie que lo haga, pero realmente nosotros tenemos que dar ese primer paso para cuidar a los demás en un ámbito de paz y mejorar nuestro mundo.
Pour moi, Dare to Care signifie offrir à tous les hommes une alimentation saine. Pour cela, je me suis dit dans mon projet agricole, je fais une agriculture biologique sans engrais chimiques afin de sauvegarder l'environnement et d'offrir à tout le monde une alimentation saine.
For me, Dare to Care means to be more attentive with every small actions in life. I try to be more attentive in throwing each piece of waste and do the recycling while at home. At the same time, I try to influence my family to do so as well.
Per me vuol dire aprire gli occhi sulle tante barriere che creano esclusione. Vuol dire imparare a progettare tutto in modo accessibile e inclusivo. Così facendo, queste barriere man mano scompariranno. Le barriere architettoniche, per esempio, che condizionano la vita di tante persone anziane o con disabilità, o anche certe diseguaglianze nell'accesso a beni primari.
Para mim, o Dare to Care funciona na prática, quando todos os dias eu escolho fazer coisas que ajudem a minha casa comum, como não usar copo descartável ou canudo plástico e todas as outras pequenas ações que nós podemos fazer no nosso dia a dia para ajudar o meio ambiente.
For me, Dare to Care means you are investing not only for yourself but also for the community and the people around you. Yesterday, I was able to separate biodegradable, non-biodegradable, and recyclable materials in order for our environment to become better than it was yesterday.
Per me Dare to Care è fare la differenza nel mondo, seguire quello che ci dice il cuore. E questo vuol dire un impegno sociale e anche un impegno verso noi stessi per renderci persone migliori al mondo. In questo momento sto lavorando su me stessa per essere una persona migliore.
Hello again, everyone. My name is Juliette Amidi. I'm from Lebanon. I hold a master's degree in natural resource management and conservation. I'm currently a researcher at the American University of Beirut, and I'm an active member of the Focolari movement. I am here today not only for my love of nature and the environment, but also because I believe that there is a way we can make our planet a better place for us and for future generations.
Hello again, my name is Fabrice Sangwa. I'm from the Democratic Republic of Congo, located in the center of Africa. I have a bachelor degree in electronics and network system. Currently, I am a technical manager in a small company where we sell and install solar photovoltaic system. I am also a member of the Focolari movement in my country, and I am here not just as a climate activist, but also as a spokesperson of my community, which is Africa. Deforestation, floods, heavy storms, fires, desertification, soil erosion, air and water pollution, and all the natural disasters are the daily news in the world. We see heartbreaking images of people who have lost their lives, houses, and family. And the most affected are people in need from the south part of the world. Sometimes it is hard to believe that things can change, and especially that our political leader will take actions about climate change. Much is to say about COP26, the United Nations Climate Change Conference. But do we really understand what is it and why is it so important? We want political leaders to take action. We want political leaders to take action. But do we really understand that we also have an important role to make things work? Through our courageous effort to be protagonists of the world's transformations, we can create network with people, organizations, and institutions which can contribute to leave a better living place for the present and future generations, and try to reach net zero emission.
So this webinar is a call for us to keep a sense of hope and to put environmental and people's efforts at the center of climate and global arena. We want to work together with institutions, people, and leaders and respect the context and expectations and relationship with nature and with each other. This webinar is an open space for all those who want to know more about COP26 and how we can act locally. And we have the opportunity to answer some questions about COP26 with two great women speakers, Dr. Lorna Gold and Ms. Tillie Palmer. Welcome, Dr. Lorna and Ms. Tillie.
Thanks, Juliet. Lovely to be here.
Thank you. Dr. Lorna Gold, she's director of the movement building at Faith Invest, chair of the Laudato Si movement board. She was Laudato Si project coordinator with TroCare, the Irish Catholic Agency of International Development, which coordinates the work on climate action within the faith community. She has been leading the work to get the Catholic Church in Ireland and globally to diverse from fossil fuels. She has experience in organizational and development, diversity, team building, research, and media. She has published books and academic articles in areas related to faith, finance, and sustainable development. She lectures in climate justice and social policy in Maynooth University. She completed her PhD in Glasgow University, focusing on the area of sharing economy within the Department of Geography.
Ms. Tillie also that is with us today, she grew a passion for environmental action through a love of nature and great outdoors. She holds a degree in physical geography from the University of Nottingham and a master's degree in environmental leadership and management, focusing especially on ecological conservation. She is part of the church in England, and her Christian faith plays a big role in her pursuit of environmental harmony and justice. She has worked with many youth groups and run many youth seminars on environment in order to encourage and inspire the next generation of young environmental leaders and provide them with a sense of hope for the future. She currently works as a program officer on the Faith Plan program run by Faith Invest and WWF Beliefs and Values program. So now let's start with the big question, of course. Dr. Lorna, what is COP26 and what is its goal?
Thanks, Juliet, and thanks, Fabrice. It is such a joy to be here with everybody this afternoon. I'm based in Ireland, but originally I am from Glasgow. So all my friends in Glasgow and family are all getting ready for the big event, COP26. It starts tomorrow in Glasgow. So what is COP26? It's, as you've already said, Fabrice, COP26 is the main international negotiation that was set up 26 years ago to tackle climate change. The title COP, C-O-P, stands for Conference of the Parties. So it's the different countries of the United Nations and other parties that signed originally the Kyoto Protocol in 1995. And now we have its successor, an international treaty called the Paris Agreement, which was signed in 2015. So you should know COP takes place every year. Countries come together for very long, important negotiations to see how they can tackle the environmental crisis of climate change. They meet in different countries, which take turns at chairing the climate change talks. So this year, the United Kingdom and Italy have co-chaired the presidency of COP. And there was a pre-COP in Milan, which some of you might have heard about. And now the venue for the COP starting tomorrow is my home city, Glasgow. So as I said, 26 years they have been talking. That's a long time to talk about tackling climate change. I don't think anybody thought back in 1995 that they would still be talking about climate change 26 years later. We can all see that this is a really difficult global challenge. In fact, what is so evident, as we'll come on to talk about, is that you can't solve climate change. We can't keep our atmosphere safe from emissions unless we tackle the other pressing problems the world's facing today. Climate change has resulted from the fact that we have an economy, we have a society which hasn't been designed to tackle global emissions. It produces emissions. This year is very important because partly there was no COP last year due to COVID, and partly because I think all of us, you're from all over the world on this call, we can see the impacts of a rise in climate temperatures with our own eyes. There's a real sense of urgency. So there are many objectives for COP26. Firstly, to keep the hope of keeping global temperatures below 1.5 degrees Celsius alive. Why do we say keep it alive? Because currently we're still heading in the wrong direction. The world is heading towards 2.7 degrees Celsius rise in temperatures. So it's important that we keep that hope of 1.5 alive. The second ambition of COP is to deliver adequate finances to the poorer countries to meet the rising costs of climate change. Thirdly, they need to agree a set of quite technical rules on how to implement the Paris Agreement. And then finally, They're going to agree an important rule on keeping methane emissions low. Methane is a very powerful greenhouse gas, like carbon dioxide. It mainly comes from agriculture. And COP is very important for also addressing that. So all the negotiators, 30,000 people from every country are officially signed up and arriving in Glasgow as we speak.
Thank you, thank you. This is great. So why is it so important, and how can we engage locally? What do you think, Tillie?
Great, thank you. Yes, I mean, I completely echo what Lorna said about being here. It's wonderful to have an opportunity to engage with you all. And I think we're all on this call because we care. And this kind of conversation is so important. So I'm really glad you're all here and willing to contribute. And so I'll explain a little bit about why this COP in particular is so important. And as Lorna said, this didn't happen last year. So we've got a lot to pick up in a way. And there's an overwhelming sense this year that the discussions and the meetings between all the powerful leaders and groups, so the UN, the governmental bodies, large global institutions, those decisions will not actually provide enough practical guidance that the world so urgently needs at the moment to sort of change the course we're on. Lorna said we're heading for a 2.7 rise, and we really need to keep that much lower. So this COP is important because wider civil society, the likes of you, the likes of me, we're going to need to contribute and help support this global movement in order to maintain a sense of that hope that this isn't all lost, that we can actually make a difference. And the COP is great because it does put environmental matters at the centre of the stage. So lots of people think that the environment hasn't got the attention it deserves over the last couple of years. And in some ways, I do tend to agree. But I also think that it's not the time to dwell on that fact. I think, especially as potentially people of faith, we've got a real opportunity to be thankful for what we can do over the next 2 weeks, for the chances we have to engage, to work, to research, and to provide our opinions and our voices. And that power can eventually lead to a shift and large-scale change. And I also think that this COP in particular is important because it's giving ordinary people, I don't see myself as special in any way. So I'm an ordinary person, but I would say myself and the likes of you, we've got some extraordinary things to say. We've got extraordinary ideas, extraordinary experience, and this COP in the next 2 weeks provides a great space for us to really speak up and voice that. It will be a great tool for raising ambition within our local communities, within wider communities. And it's going to test our resilience. It's going to test the resilience of those who are trying to make on the ground change and trying to impose and reach these targets. But I don't think that it's a time to be completely miserable and fearful of what's going to come out of the next 2 weeks. But there are so many ways to engage in the exciting things that are happening. And one tip I would say is just keep up with the news. Look at social media, and if something that's been reported on within the COP grabs your attention, take that issue and research it further. You can find all kinds of groups working on specific environmental issues, charities, local campaigns within your areas, global movements that you can find out about and get involved with. I could give one example in the UK of the YCCN, that's the Young Christian Climate Network, who have recently done a pilgrimage to COP. So they've made their way to Glasgow campaigning on environmental matters. And that's just one way that other people within local communities have been able to get involved and show that they do have a passion and that they are caring about these issues.
Thank you, thank you. Dr. Lorna, got something to add?
You're on mute, Lorna. Oh.
Mhm.
You can't unmute yourself.
Your microphone.
Okay, sorry, another technical problem.
Okay.
So Tillie, you outlined a number of different things that people can do on a very practical level. If we get practical about this, what I'd suggest, because COP starts tomorrow, it doesn't start in 2 weeks' time. So 3 things, easy to remember: pray, petition, and plan. If you can remember those 3 P's: to pray, to petition, and to plan. So to pray, it's about really having these negotiations in our hearts, and we believe in the power of prayer. And we can pray on our own, of course. We can pray every morning in our focolare centres, in our parishes. And it's really important we come together to pray for the COP, because the problem of climate change is a collective problem. It's something we need to resolve together. It's about community action together. So even also praying in nature, why not hold a prayer service? Why not have a meditation together, multi-faith or Christian or whatever, on your own? So praying. The second thing is petition. We need to raise our voices. Even at this last minute, each of us can raise our voices to ask for our own governments and global leaders to make the changes we need for future generations. Now, there's a wonderful petition which Pope Francis has given his blessing to, and is being spread by the Laudato Si movement, which Focolare and others are joined in this giant network together. So I think they're going to put the link to the petition in the chat. It's, if you put healthy planet, healthy people petition into the internet anyway, you'll find it, but hopefully the link to it will appear at some point in the chat. So join the petition, share the petition, so that we can raise all the voices of faith, people of faith, together. And at the COP, together with other leaders, other people, I'll be presenting the petition to the COP presidency later this week. And finally, to plan. The thing that we often think about climate change or ecology is that we have to do it all on our own. But it's not really only about doing all our little things. Yes, we need to do those, what Pope Francis calls them noble acts, like remembering to put your litter, not to litter, or not to waste. Little noble acts. But we can do so much more. We need to make very practically all of our institutions, all of our centres, all of our homes sustainable and reduce our emissions. So this is something that all of us can do in different ways, finding our community. And the initiative that Tillie and myself are both involved in is called Faith Plans for People and Planet. And this Faith Plans, which connects with the Vatican's Laudato Si Action Platform, which I know many, especially from a Catholic point of view, are involved in. The Faith Plans is going to be launched at a community level in Glasgow by the Focolare in collaboration with the Al Bayt Global Muslim community next weekend. So we're absolutely thrilled that this is going to be launched in Glasgow at a local community level. If you want to know about how to do that or how to get involved in that, you can go on to faithplans.org and find out how you reduce your emissions as a community.
Okay.
Thank you. Juliet, another question?
Juliet seems to be frozen.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, okay.
Sorry. So I was saying that through the word now we are seeing how youth are leading the change. So what do you think is the specific role of youth in the run-up of COP26 and beyond? My question is addressed to Tillie.
Great, thank you. Yes, so I'm going to start with saying that I'm a dreamer, a big dreamer, and I think a lot of us who are younger are big dreamers, and we have big ambitions for the future. And I'm a firm believer that dreams and ideas, they can come true, they can become a reality. And so I dream of a world where there are global temperatures that are stable, that wildlife is flourishing, and nature, we live in harmony with that. There's no poverty, there's no hunger, none of these environmental challenges exist. And I don't think that's an unrealistic vision. I really don't. We were there before, why can't we be there again? And I think that young people like you and I, we don't often get the chance to speak up for what we believe. I find that our voices are often drowned out by media, policy, and high-level governance. But this COP gives us a chance to really share our stories and fight for that change that we need. And the world is going to be watching and listening to us. So let's take advantage of that. Let's not be silent, and let's not just sit and listen, but actively partake in these conversations. And as Lorna said, we don't need to wait for COP to finish before we can begin to make a difference. We can begin right now by sharing some of the stories within our own networks and our own communities, to gather groups, to attend different COP events online. And one of the best gifts I think we have as young people is our ability to engage well with social media. And this is a great way to share those important stories. There are so many environmental organizations and charities out there that have been working in this field for a long time. They've got experience and knowledge to share themselves. And we can help that by spreading social media effectively. And so a really good place to start, I think, would be looking at the Earthshot Prize. So if you don't know what this is, it's a very recent thing where some groups who have been doing environmental initiatives around the world have been recognized for their work and have won their prizes. And so only last week, these 5 winners of the Earthshot Prize were announced in an awards ceremony here in London. And these are just 5 people of thousands of individuals and groups that are already making a difference on the ground. And among some of the nominees for the finalists, there were some young people doing some amazing work. So I suggest going and looking at the website. We can share the links, get hold of their stories and share those on your social media platforms if you have access to them, and they will then inspire and encourage other young people within our networks and communities to get involved, to start thinking big, and to pick up this kind of work. And we can also be really attentive during the COP, the 2 weeks that we have, to the young groups that are going to be present. Now, there are going to be sort of youth groups at work, climate activists that are sort of much younger than your average climate activist present at the COP. And so we can follow them, we can get to know what they're doing, and sort of learn from them and how we can then advocate and change. And then something very simple, we're good at learning. We're in that stage where we love to learn, we love to receive knowledge. So get a pen, get a notebook, a piece of paper. If you attend events, take some notes, and then you can go out and share those within your younger networks as well. But we can also, as young people, be really sort of active in intergenerational conversations. So we can share our sort of younger thoughts and ideas with the older generations, but we can also learn from that knowledge and experience that the older generations have to share with us. So get stuck into those conversations. And I mean, we all know, as the younger generations, we are faced with the enormous task of trying to deal with the complex environmental issues over the coming years. And I am very confident that we can do this, and we can do it with purpose. So I don't know about you, but sometimes I can feel an overwhelming sense of despair in a way when faced with the sort of enormity of this challenge. And it often feels like the older generations, the current world leaders or experts and decision makers don't quite understand what we face. And so just to finish this question, I'd like to highlight that actually we're all leaders, and we have a responsibility to play our part. And we can do that as younger leaders. I mean, to lead, that doesn't mean you need to stand at the front of the stage and shout about what we need to do and why we need to do it. Some of us don't have that opportunity, and we can't all be Greta Thunberg. I mean, she's incredible and has done some great work, but we don't have that platform. But I think that a leader is just simply someone that sets an example for someone else to follow, even if that's just one single person. A leader is someone that has an idea and doesn't shut it away in a box. A leader is someone that recognizes knowledge, skills, and gifts that we have and decides to intentionally use those for the better. And so I think young leadership should extend way beyond COP, and it will extend way beyond COP. And we can start by putting those examples in our daily lives now. We can put those on our social media. We can talk to our neighbours. And that's just how this sort of young leadership can get really going in these environmental matters. So it starts now, and it starts with you.
Thank you, Tillie. Thank you. That's so beautiful. And so, what is the role of faith-based organization during and after COP26? We can go on with Dr. Lorna Gold.
Thanks, Fabrice. And just to echo that, what Tillie just said, I think this idea that we're all leaders is so important when it comes to tackling climate change. COP26 is about much more than what happens in the negotiating rooms. As I mentioned at the start, the reality of our world today is that our global system is broken. And as Greta Thunberg said in a media article just the other day, nobody is coming to save us when it comes to climate change. Whilst the COP is really important to continue to pressure for governments to do everything that they can, we can't expect that the governments are going to, we can't take a gamble. It's like a big game of poker. If we were to take a gamble that the world leaders are going to deliver everything we need in time, I think we'd be a bit foolish. So we need to keep the pressure up, but this is why the question of what faith organizations are doing is so important. Because whilst the negotiators are in the meeting rooms and they're talking, and we'll be trying to pressure them, outside that, there's thousands of people, and all the major faith groups are represented there. For the world leaders to know that we are counting on them, that we are asking them to live up to their promises. We'll be out on the streets with all the different faiths together next Saturday. And right across the world, people will be mobilizing next Saturday for a global day of action in every city across the world. So that's something that can be done with all the faith communities. Many faith groups have also travelled to Glasgow as a pilgrimage, making the pilgrimage on foot, by cycle. And I saw a young boy I know, not young boy, a young man I know from the west of Ireland is arriving on a sailboat to Glasgow tomorrow. I hope the weather's not too bad for him. But using creativity as people of faith arriving in Glasgow or wherever we are, to make a point that we really care what happens, as Pope Francis has. And people of faith all over Glasgow and Scotland, one of the beautiful things is hospitality, that people have opened their doors to young pilgrims coming from all over the world into their homes, offering hospitality to them. But I think a very serious note is that if COP, as if it doesn't live up to expectations, where is the leadership going to come from to address this crisis in the next decade? And I think that faith communities, led really by the initiative of Pope Francis by Laudato Si, but also on the 4th of October this year, has set out that faiths are going to step up now and play their part in tackling this challenge in line with faith values. All the world's faiths say something very important about care for the earth. Some perhaps have not really paid attention to that over the past few decades, but I think now is the time for faith communities to really step forward and to be coherent with our deepest values, which speak to us of God's presence in creation, God's love for other species, not just the humans, and the need for us to care, to have this deep culture of care. So after COP, I think there's going to be a huge responsibility on all the different faiths to come together to take bold action on carbon emissions, on sustainability, on care for nature. And as I've already mentioned, through the Faith Plans programme, faithplans.org, faith groups all over the world are already signing up to make a plan. When we want to do something important in life, we usually make a plan. It can be a simple plan, but you have to have a plan. And Pope Francis asks us to come up with a plan. It's not going to be one just big global plan, but it's going to be lots of plans that involve all of us and our communities in setting out how we're going to do our part to tackle these big global challenges.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lorna. Thank you also, Ms. Tillie, for being with us and for sharing your insights with us today. Dr. Lorna, we learned that you'll be at COP26, so we wish you the best of luck and we'll support you from distance. So to wrap up our talk today, after 26 years, there's a great urgency to find concrete and feasible solutions to our climate crisis. Acting locally while thinking globally, we can answer many small problems we are encountering. As our speaker said it well and expressed it very well, hope for a better planet and for a better tomorrow, hope in working hand in hand and starting with small changes can have a great impact on our actions. We trust that the output of today's webinar has helped us in anchoring our faith that together we can make a change. Don't forget to follow us on our social media. And thank you again for being with us today. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.